We're back in downtown Toronto for another edition of Let Me Tell You Something.
Good to be back.
Joined with Sherry Basson as usual. And Sherry, we witnessed quite the hockey game on Tuesday between the Winnipeg Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, the real thing is that the quality of the players that were on the ice and their age and what they're about and a couple of upcoming teams, that's really the issue. And when we talk I'm excited about talking some of the things that we're going to talk about today, which includes the young talent that we're seeing, and especially a couple of players. One of them we didn't see because he's injured, Marner, but two of them that have been the talk of the NHL or talk of the country in hockey.
Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine, they delivered in what was an extremely entertaining game. Sherry, what impressed you about both the players you saw?
Well, stardom is what you can see. Their ability. I've been lucky enough to meet Matthews, and he's such a high character guy. Here, Laney is. They both look like leadership people, it's hard to watch the game when they're on the ice because you get caught watching them. That's their ability, and they're just such special players, and it's hard to believe that one's 18 and one's 19. The maturity level for that kind of age. Think about it. When you were 18 years old, you were thinking of stopping at the Dairy Queen.
I still think of stopping at the Dairy Queen.
There you are.
I'm 24.
That's your big decision, you see? That was your big decision.
Oreo Blizzards.
These guys are talking about leading a hockey team to the playoffs. It's hard to believe that. Usually we're thinking of, 25, 28-year-old players that are getting it done. Except that some of the superstars today that are older, they were in that position at one time. And so, to me, it's just, when you look at it and see that, and you tell people, like, when I took the train in and I was train back to Oshawa where I live, and I was sitting with all, the train was packed, people leaving the game, and they were talking about, obviously, Matthews, because they're Leaf fans, and then we talked about Laney, and I said, you guys realize those guys are only 18 and 19 years old? And a number of them looked at me and said, it's so hard to believe that. They just come across as much older players. And so...
Well, they're built like older players.
Yeah.
They're both huge.
Yeah, but the real fact is, though, that not only that, it's the fact that they think so much more maturely than the average 18 or 19-year-old thinks. They're prepared for much more responsibility than the average 18 or 19-year-old because they've gone through accepting responsibility. They've been the leaders in whatever program they played in.
Sherry, you're talking about responsibility. Now let's transition to another team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. They have a fantastic defenseman on their blue line in Zach Werenski. You talk about responsibility. This guy is playing on the top defensive pair unit, okay? He has 36 points, 18 power play points. To put Werenski's season into perspective, Sherry, Aaron Ekblad had 39 points when he won the Calder Trophy, okay? Werenski already has 36, and it seems as though he's really taken a back seat to Laine and Matthews. Do you think that he should be more in the conversation? Do you think there's any chance that he could maybe win the award?
Well, he's taken a back seat to us Canadians. People that follow the game and know the game, he hasn't taken a back seat to. Because obviously we see all the Leaf games, and then we pick up any game. And we especially we hear all the time what Canadian teams are going to make the playoffs. That's all we stress. But now take a look. Now, when we talk about these things, think about this. Matthews has 28 goals and 21 assists. Is that correct, Minion?
24 assists.
24 assists.
He has 52 points.
52 points. Unbelievable. Now, think about this. Then Laney House.
He's 30 goals and 24 assists in 55 games, Sherry, and his shooting percentage is 19.9%, which really is it's no coincidence. It's incredible, but the guy is one of the best shots in the league already.
But here's something else. Never mind that we talk about responsibility. I was watching Matthews in his own end, which Babcock's been talking about, and how he comes back to help to get them out of trouble. And you can just see in his face if you watch his body language. He's so committed. He didn't get any goals, but he was on the ice for the winning goal. That's all he talks about, team accomplishments, because that's what Babcock says. Put away your personal successes for team success. When he scored those 4 goals, he didn't talk about it. And I'm sure Laney, it's not only his accuracy of his shot, it's how quick he gets it off. It's how hard it is. And the thing about it is they know it's coming. They set him out on the side there. They set him out on the side for the power play. He's all situated and twisted around. Just give it to me because it's going. And I noticed even on Tuesday night how everybody thought he was going to shoot it at times, and he moved it right back quickly. He one-touched the puck. One-touched it back to the defenseman when everybody thought he was going to rifle off that bullet. And so he's gaining all this confidence and understanding and how people will shift against him primarily. So he's prepared to give it to somebody else to get more assists. But here's the funny thing about this. Marner's been hurt. Marner was the talk of the community up until he got hurt here. We forget. I'd like to think, and I hope it's only an injury that's not going to keep him out very long because they never report those things. But let's not forget about what he's accomplished. Wasn't he? What's he got? 15 goals, 33 assists in 56 games?
56 games.
That's better than getting hit in the head with a dead fish, too, you know. That's pretty good stats. So when you put that all together, like, let's not throw him out of the conversation quickly just because he hasn't played 3 or 4 games. And we have a tendency of what we see today. We're today people. And a week ago, Marner was in the today conversation. So everybody talks now that it's a Matthews-Laney race. But as you pointed out, how hard it is to get good defensemen, and Werenski stepping in. And I know Werenski when he was playing on the, I remember him in minor hockey and how he stepped up. And the more he plays, the more confident he becomes. It's got nothing to do now with how young he is. But he's in the conversation. He's just not talked about as much with us people here in Toronto.
Well, because it's such a stacked rookie class. It's been unbelievable.
It is a stacked rookie class, and that's a real good point that you make. But let me tell you what. He's an untouchable player, you can be sure of that. Because good defensemen like that are going to be number 1 defensemen on their team for years, I'm talking years, they're hard to find because they're, as you and I visited the game, they're 28, 30-minute guys. Bufflin, who we saw play, who is got so much ability, it's unbelievable.
He was
how much ability.
He was, for a guy his size, he was flying.
Yeah, but even
night.
more than that, I watched him pace himself. I watched him read the play. He got in a fight, which if I'm coaching the team, I'm pretty upset because that's a depleted defense core, and he's sitting 5 minutes. You can be sure that Toronto was happy to see him sitting for 5 straight minutes because otherwise he does. But my point is that's how valuable good defensemen are. And Werenski's got all these years ahead of him. So let's not count him out. We know how good these other guys are. And as you said, it's a phenomenal class. It's a phenomenal class of young stars.
You talk about finding good defensemen, Sherry. Sportsnet recently discussed the possibility of the Leafs maybe trading William Nylander for a good defenseman.
Well, let me tell you this. What do they mean by a good defenseman? Because some of these names that you're flying, Nylander's not enough to get some of these top defensemen. Make no money, even though he could be some kind of a special player. We watched him Tuesday night. He can play tic-tac-toe, how's your mama with that puck like you wouldn't believe. He sees the ice. He draws attention. He gets people staring at the puck that are playing against him, trying to get it off him. He's got the chance to be a heck of a player. But to get a noted number 1 defenseman, like people are talking about, they don't grow on trees. And nobody gives them up. Nobody gives them up.
Someone called in and talked about the possibility of Nylander being traded for Victor Hedman.
There's a better chance of Chicken Little pulling the string in the sky fall. There's a better chance of that. I mean, as we talked about, like, who is not looking for defense? Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are the only team not? We saw Winnipeg last night. Well, let's go right down the line. Edmonton would like another defense. Who doesn't want a good defenseman? And when you get 2 or 3 of them, they can take you a long way.
And Calgary just traded for one in Michael Stein.
Sure, but the point is, they are when you have them, they're such a valuable commodity. They're 28, 30 minute. Remember I told you last week, a hockey game is 360 minutes, not 60. 60 at every position. So if you've got 2 good defensemen, if you've got 2 good 1 and 2 defensemen, they're taking half that 60 minutes of each side. You've just filled up 50% of your blue line. And if you got one of those top guys on the ice all the time, it's a different game. You're getting out of trouble quicker. They're getting the puck quicker. And other players love to play with them. The other defensemen learn more and become more adaptable and get to be that key guy that can do these things because of the community. They are so valuable. And to think that they can just put 2 or 3 players together and a couple of draft choices and not going to happen. Not going to get to a doctor because you need help.
I think that trading Nylander and a first-round draft pick for Hedman might not even be enough. To get a defenseman of Hedman's caliber. He's one of the best in the league.
First of all, Toronto's first-round pick is not going to be an early pick from now on.
Not what it's been
You're
recently.
talking, no. We're talking middle of the pack on from now on. So, don't be talking about, people talk about first-round picks like, people don't like to give them up because they all believe they can get a player. But we're not talking about a primary pick anymore because the Leafs got good by finally picking 4th one year and 1st another, like all the teams we've talked about. So when they're going to trade their first-round pick, it's not like that appealing, like, oh, my God, I can get a real good player there. It's not. And people forget about all those factors. They just hear first round. The first thing you want to know is, I'm not getting a shot at Patrick. He's going, no, and Patrick's going first overall. And, there's a whole bunch of them that it's rumored that he is. But the point is, just because you mention a first-round pick, it sounds good.
That's a great point, Sherry.
That's the issue.
Sherry, I just want to clarify to our viewers, we were actually at the game. Sherry was nice enough to buy me a hot dog, so thank you for that. But there were a couple other good young players in that game too. Mark Scheifele. And Sherry, we were talking about how today names that come to mind are usually Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane. That generation has been fantastic, but we have an incredible one coming through the league right now, including guys like Scheifele, Aaron Ekblad, Alex Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Seth Jones, Nathan McKinnon.
But wait a sec. Connor McDavid.
I was waiting for you to say it.
Connor McDavid, who has 67 points in 60 games. He just turned 20, by the way. Just turned 20. But aside from that, and the Eichels and all these other guys, we always think when we hear the Crosbys and Kanes, and what's the game going to be like? I think, what's going to happen when those guys retire? I mean, you hear people talking about, when we lose these superstars. First of all, the game's always going to be, because we do develop a lot of good players now all over the world. There's a lot of good players being developed. There's a down year. This year's I'm hearing the NHL draft isn't as good as it's been in the past, but it doesn't matter. You all want players from it. But I'm going to tell you, when you mention all these guys, and we've already talked about the Mariners and all, for all the guys that are going to be chasing the rookie position, and then when you hear these Huberdeaus and Barkovs, and it's interesting. You talk about Werenski. They traded for a heck of a defenseman in Seth Jones. You talk about that. You take a look at their defense core, which you build. I told you before, you build a hockey team, goaltending, defense, center ice. Because you get into those 2-1 games in the playoffs in a best of 7. You want a key save, and you want a guy to get you out of trouble. And boy, are there a lot of these guys coming on. And even though they're talking about would you trade Nylander, you and I got to witness him. He looks like he has got a lot of ability. When he learns the 200-foot game, which they're teaching him, which Babcock's showing patience to do with, when he learns it, he's going to be a significant player. And give Winnipeg credit, as I said before, they stood up and took Mark Scheifele. And a lot of people were saying, who's Mark Scheifele? They were brave to stand up and do it. Johnny Gaudreau. And I mean, the list goes
on. The list goes on.
We don't have Forsberg. We don't have enough time on this show to talk about what great young talent there is and how good it is for the fans. I mean, here I've seen Noah Hannafin, and I know his stats aren't big with the team he's with right now. He's a heck of a player. There was even discussion about whether he should have gone earlier. And even a young guy like Max Domi, who's been hurt and stuff like that, who was having a terrific year last year. I mean, hey, and we've missed a number because we're not going to take that time to talk about it.
And you talk about young players, Sherry, and Max Domi. How about just the Arizona Coyotes in general? They have Christian Dvorak as well.
Yeah. No. They have a number of young players there too.
Tons of young players.
But
Chikrin.
Who's surprised a lot of people. You know what? You put him with some pretty good players, he's playing way better than a lot of people suggested he was going to play. There was a lot of questions. That's why he went later in the draft. I thought this guy was a heck of a player. I always believed he was a heck of a player, as I saw how effective he was as a 16-year-old defenseman. So anyway, the point is, the game's in good hands, and the fans are going to keep keeping your season ticket holders because there's a lot of good players coming.
Sherry, now we're going to talk about some of the young talent in Canadian women's hockey.
Well, let me tell you something. We're going to talk about a special young team that I've gone to watch. Women's hockey, which is a significantly growing sport in this country. And I'm talking about, first of all, the guy that coaches the team and basically looks after is Ray Irwin, a former captain of mine. 40 years ago, one of the best captains I've ever had, captain in the Oshawa Generals. This guy's a special guy, special friend. I mean, he got his degree from University of Guelph. He now has these dealerships. He played in Europe. He's been to two Centennial Cups when he was going to Guelph University. He played Tier 2 there in Guelph. I mean, and he's a goal-oriented guy. He's built these dealerships. He's a workaholic. And he's taken this team. I'm telling you, these group of young players, and they're so special. When you watch them play, it's amazing.
All right, we're now joined by Ray Irwin. Ray, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks very much.
Hey,
glad to be right here.
Good to have you. That when you left to play hockey as a 16-year-old, and then all your experience in Europe and playing on 2 Centennial Cups and being captain of the Oshawa Generals, and it was quite a growth period for you. And, of course, you got to be like a son to me. But how did you get into this women's hockey and traveling the continent about that? Like, how did that happen? Because I know about your twin daughters, but how did this all start?
Well, I think it all started when I took charge of my family. And I decided that I really didn't want to spend my life in a gymnasium, that maybe I wanted to stick with something I knew a little bit about. So my kids were when they were young, they were really active, and they decided that they wanted to go out and skate, and they enjoyed skating. So I think for a hockey dad, the natural transition is buy them some skates, a helmet, some gloves, and a stick, and take them out to the outdoor rink, and then from there it just kind of progressed. So.
Well, how long you been coaching them now? When were they mites or tykes or?
Yeah, I think where everybody else starts off, I was on the ice with them in the Timbit program here in North Bay, and Once they got through that, the next step was to join the local women's hockey organization, and of course, they needed volunteer coaches, so stepped up and decided to throw my name into the hat. Of course, like everything else, you have to go through an interview, and that was kind of funny. But I figured that it was the same interview that Darren Turcotte had to go through, and Bill Holder, and
Oh my God, you're talking about
guys
players.
who have coached here in North Bay, and from that point on, it was obviously the early years were fun, but as time progressed, the girls started taking it more serious, and as a coach, you had to get better every year.
Yeah, so now, in the interviews, did they yell at you like I yell at you?
No, never. No, never. They were more respectful.
I don't think anyone can yell at someone like Sherry yells at someone. I've experienced it firsthand. It's for the best, though.
Yeah. We the first year I was in Oshawa, I think we won 5 games, and I'm not sure, but there were some classics. And
do you remember any of them?
I think, and sure, you can correct me on this. While we only won 5 games, and our team wasn't very good, I think there was like 20 games we lost by 1 goal.
Yeah, 21, and we
21.
tied 5 others.
It wasn't a lack of effort. We were there, but we just weren't that good. But we rarely got blown out. But that didn't matter to him. If we gave up a goal with a minute left to go in the game, we knew we were going to get it.
That's true. But the funny thing is that you were the captain that turned around, and the next year we went to 3rd overall. I think biggest increase ever, and then had those. But let me, in regards to your team here now, because you run it like a junior team. Like you practice a lot, don't you?
Yeah, we're probably we practice 3 or 4 times a week. We've got a skill session that we run in conjunction with the battalion OHL team here in town that John Dean heads up, along with Stan Butler, and we're probably on the ice twice a month with them. And then as well, off-ice dryland work with some local people. So the girls are really busy, and they really enjoy it.
So, Ray, can you touch on the traveling schedule and what it's like for you guys to go practice some days or even go play some games? And what's it like for you?
Well, up until this year, we had to play all of our home games out of town in Lower Lakes, and that meant we had games scheduled in Orillia, Nottawasaga is south of Barrie, Huntsville, because the part of joining Lower Lakes it basically stated that they wouldn't come north to play, and this year they changed the rules to allow us to play some games in North Bay. So up until this point, during the regular season, we played 3 home games in North Bay, and the balance have been played in Huntsville. And so Huntsville's an hour and 20 minutes away, and
wow,
for us, that is our closest home game.
So some of the players now, can you talk about where you see them going in the future? Do you see some of your players playing university hockey, maybe going to the States, playing hockey there?
Yeah, over the years, North Bay's had a pretty good feeder system. They've had some girls go on to Division I schools, a lot go on to the CIS level, and we're no different. From our team last year, we had one girl that went down to the Provincial Women's League and she just got a scholarship to Wisconsin.
Wow.
And a girl that we had last year that came over to us from Sault Ste. Marie, Jana Hedricks at the University of Toronto in her first year on a scholarship.
But
This year we probably have 8 to 10 girls who will either play Division I in their career or at the CIS level.
I mean, first of all, I saw them play. They're phenomenal. You have twin daughters. Both are, and one's got a 97 average, the other's pushing 90. Minion, you put all your grades together, you don't have 90. I mean, this is unbelievable. So
this is what I go through on a weekly basis.
So the point is now, this league that you play in, it's primarily Toronto teams?
Yes, we're at Lower Lakes. We're in the Central Division, so we're playing against Aurora, Etobicoke, Brampton, Leaside, teams like that. And there are 3 other divisions within Ontario, but it's all Southern Ontario and Eastern Ontario based, yeah.
So you regularly make single trips into Toronto and play the game and go straight home?
All the time. All the time.
And the tournaments are all here too, and in Michigan?
Yeah, we play, this year we played 3 tournaments. Stony Creek is the biggest one in early September, 2 in Toronto, and then 1 in Detroit.
That's people don't understand. I mean, people absolutely don't understand the commitment that these girls make to be players and what they go through. I mean, I've known you and love you because you're so goal-oriented and you strive for perfection and whatever you do. Like, we've won Memorial Cups together and stuff like that, and that people just don't realize that the dedication and commitment and that girls hockey, except they don't want hamburgers after the game like when I coached you if you were playing 15 years old.
No, the girls are a little bit different in that they want to know when the mall closes, especially when you live in Northern Ontario where you have a limited supply of clothing stores and makeup stores. So you see a mass exodus from the arena, one of the Canlan arenas in Toronto. Don't get in their way as they're heading to Vaughan Mills Mall, that's for sure.
But aside from all that, the different interests, they have the same commitment, the same desire to be good. I mean, and the ability of these people, the constant work that you have with them, is now where would they go now? Now, what happens when they finish with you now? Like, are there other leagues that they can, what happens now as they get older? Where are they going?
If they don't go college.
Right.
Well, some of them will make the jump right to university.
Okay.
And the girl that Jana Hedrick, who headed to U of T, made the jump last year, and she made the transition very well. The Provincial Women's Hockey League, which is primarily based out of Southern Ontario, is a league that is, I would say, it's comparable to the boys' version of the OHL.
Okay.
And a lot of the better players will want to play in that league. Now, for somebody from Northern Ontario, that is a jump. One, it's significant cost, and it can run anywhere. Team fees can run anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 a year, plus billet fees. So there is a price that the kids have to pay and their parents have to pay to go and play in that league.
It's just
but at the same time as Division I schools, Division III in the U.S., CIS schools,
sure.
They focus on that league because in Ontario, the best players typically are playing there. Not all, but I would say.
But they also know they're committed. They're committed to being players. And now, what about, your daughters are in grade 11, right?
Yeah.
So they can't go to university, and they're good players. The grade 11s, where are they going then?
Well, right now they're being contacted by CIS schools who are saying, "We want you to come to our school and be a varsity hockey player," and therefore what they start, and they start as early as grade 10, is that starting to line up their courses, making sure that one, academically they can get into the course that they want, and two, from a hockey perspective, is that they if a coach or a school has made a commitment to them, that they got to keep improving, and the girls know that. So right now in grade 11, they're visiting schools, they're talking to coaches, they're gathering information so that when they have to make a decision, that they want to make sure they're making the right decision.
Well, I'm telling you, when you think of the preparation, when you think of what you guys do, I mean, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching them play because they've got ability, and the way you have them prepared, like I can't get over that. And they're all, your daughters are bright girls, good players, and there's a lot of other ones on there. Your daughters must have a lot of your wife Jane in them then, like, because I know you for all these years, like, for them to be this bright and have all this ability must be.
They let's just say that the girls know what it's like to play for a dictator.
That's great.
And as they grow older, now they're starting to push back. It was a lot easier when they were 10.
I'll bet that's true.
And but at the same time, it's great. The one thing about the girls is they want to know why.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
For when you coach boys and you say, okay, we're going to go to a 1-2-2 forechecking system. So the boys, they say, okay, that's what we're doing. The girls want to know why.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've learned that until you answer why, they may not do it. But once they understand the rationale behind it, they're all in. And they'll follow it to a T, and they'll do it better than the boys. Because they'll sit there, listen, analyze, and then go out and do it.
That's a great insight. Ray, I can't tell you how much I mean the commitment that you're making and all. And I'm so proud to say that I know you, and the fact that the growth of the game, it's people like you and those girls. We want nothing but success for them. Really appreciate you coming on here and giving us some insight. And I'll see you around the rink, Dubert. Keep punching.
Absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate it, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
One thing that really stuck with me about that interview, Sherry, is that Ray said that a lot of these girls go and play in a league that's equivalent to the OHL, and they have to pay $4,000 to $7,000. Okay?
Plus building.
Look at the OHL and the WHL. Look at the lawsuits that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
These players are complaining that they want to make money.
Great point, Minion.
Put it into perspective here.
Great point, Minion. Here they are. They get spending money. They get the best equipment. They got to buy their own equipment too, by the way. They buy their own stuff. They buy their own. You got to understand that. Everything from skates. And we're talking about the OHL and they get a scholarship. These guys are applying to go to the CIS. They get recruited and get a full scholarship to play 4 more years of hockey. That's a really good point you brought up, Minion. You must have got up early this morning to be able to be thinking of things like that.
Woke up early, ate my bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. This is not for a nutritionist. We're talking about people paying proper attention to a diet.
You've never had Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
No, absolutely not. I don't want to cut them up or anything like that, but I thought you may have had porridge, a banana, and some fresh fruit and yogurt after.
I'll let you know I also had some avocado toast.
Okay, so. I'm for that. So now it's just You know, that's all we've heard. We usually hear about is men's hockey and the boys and all the programs. This women's sport is growing. And it's because of dedication of these people that just want to get better, want better competition. Now, his daughters are moving to Barrie next year to play in that provincial league, junior league. So he's going to have to get a place in Barrie, and his wife's going to move there because they want better competition. They want to get better. In order to do that, they got to go where it's played. Phenomenal commitment.
It's incredible. And again, if you compare it to the CHL, it just really makes a lot of the players seem almost spoiled in a way.
Yeah.
You really look at it. So Sherry, Rick Westhead of TSN recently reported that Mike Peluso has filed, who is a former enforcer in the NHL, filed a workers' compensation claim. This guy had a fight or two in the league, okay? He has reportedly experienced 8 or 9 seizures since he retired, and he can't even call an ambulance anymore in his home state of Minnesota because it costs too much money. Sherry, what needs to be done about this?
Well, first of all, the first thing that's got to be done about this is to bring such an awareness to brain injury, to depression. You know, you and I have visited somewhat about this, and understanding the complexity and the seriousness of these brain injuries. You know, and I've said before to you, we don't visualize it. Years ago when I played, if you had told them you had a headache, they'd call you a sissy taking aspirin. I mean, now what we're discovering in the seriousness of these injuries and what it's all about, we don't visualize it enough, Minion. We don't visualize it enough. As I've told you before, we've discussed this before. When you break your arm, we put a cast on it. We visualize it. We say, hey, how are you going to be? You ask me about my wrist a lot since I fractured it. You can see the wrapping I got and so forth. And you talk about that. And we say, I should be okay in 6 weeks. When you break your head, Minion, we don't visualize it enough. We don't understand it. I fractured my wrist curling. I'm embarrassed to say that, but I mean curling. The point is, I still come to work here. I still go to work. When you break your head, as pointed out, you can't go to work. And that's the real thing. And these people have to be looked after. There's got to be a definition. Because the other thing I'm talking about that you and I visit about fighting, when those big boys take their helmets off, and they get into it and they're going to start throwing them. One of these days, one of those 230-pounders are going to fall to the ice and hit his head. And junior hockey's done something about that. You can't take your helmets off.
Well, Don Sanderson in 2009 from the Whitby Dunlops in a fight hit his head against the ground and he died.
That's awful.
It's terrible.
Awful. And so the issue is, we know there's issues about dementia later on. We know there's brain injury.
Peluso claims he already has dementia, and he's 51 years old.
And, hey, the issue is that people like this should be looked after. The fact is that they committed themselves. Whatever it is, these people should be looked after, and there should be an attempt that they can afford to get healthy. That's the issue here, Minion. Whatever it is, whatever the rules are, the lawsuits that they're trying to find here, now he doesn't qualify for workman's compensation because they changed the rules. Apparently, he was getting workman's compensation. Did I read that article properly?
Yes.
And in
California, but the NFL helped change that in professional sports.
Yes.
You can only file for workers' compensation in California if you played home games there.
Right there, if you were a resident at one time there. The point is, people like this have to be looked after. And people are running for cover now based on precedent and other lawsuits. People have to find a way to get together to help these people. And I sincerely, from what I've read about Mike Peluso, I sincerely hope that he gets looked after.
Well, this trial it's supposed to happen sometime this fall, so.
Well, I hope that aside from the trial, not without getting into the legalities, he needs help. He played the sport. We got to find a way to help him.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.